All right. Yes, namaste. Welcome everyone for today's webinar on timeless leadership wisdom, unlocking Chanakya's Arthashastra for modern leaders. Pranav Bhai, thank you for joining, and Dr. Radhakrishna ji, thank you for joining. I'm Ankur Patel, the Director of Outreach, joining from Los Angeles. SM Krishnan from Mumbai, glad to have you. One plus, maybe you can put your name, but from Lucknow, India, great. Dilip ji from Maryland, a regular. Malati ji from Mumbai, welcome, welcome. Mohan Chalani from Orlando, glad to have you with us. Anita ji from Virginia, welcome. Swati from Norway, glad to have you. Venkatachalam ji from Maryland, Geeta ji from the UAE, the United Arab Emirates, Minish Mehta ji from Ahmedabad. Awesome, glad to have all of you. Okay, Nagiji from Maryland, Devraj from Kerala. All right, keep putting in the chat and we'll come back and recognize everyone who wants to be recognized in the chat. But let me give a little background to this webinar. I'll also launch a quick poll. If you've attended a webinar before, you can let us know. If you've taken courses at HUA, please let us know if you're in a program. But today's webinar is about leadership, and leadership is a timeless skill, evolving through centuries, yet rooted in principles that remain relevant today. One of history's greatest thinkers, Chanakya, crafted a comprehensive guide to leadership, governance, and personal mastery in his seminal work, Kautilya's Arthashastra. But can his 2,300-year-old teachings help modern leaders navigate today's fast-paced and complex world? Well, we're going to get into that with Dr. Radhakrishna Pillai, a leading expert on Chanakya's philosophy, in this exclusive webinar as he unveils a powerful course designed to decode Arthashastra and apply its lessons to contemporary leadership. Learn how ancient wisdom can transform your decision-making, ethical governance, and strategic thinking. So not only do we have Dr. Radhakrishna Pillai, we also have Shri Pranav Patel. He is now the director of the School of Ultimate Leadership. He's a passionate leadership developer, and he brings a wealth of experience in leadership training, organizational development, research, and people-centric solutions. He was previously and served as a senior executive officer for strategic and outreach at the Partha Ghosh Academy of Leadership at IIT Kharagpur, where he led initiatives to empower individuals to tackle complex challenges with a focus on ethics, equity, and sustainability. Pranav Bhai has held key leadership roles, including as the founding CEO, director of Chanakya Anvikshiki Private Limited, and director at the Chanakya Institute of Public Leadership. He has worked across sectors, including corporate, education, public service, providing leadership training to diverse professionals. Glad to have him with us today. And then we have Dr. Radhakrishna Pillai. He's got his PhD from the University of Mumbai, Department of Philosophy. He trains leaders and aspirants from various fields, including corporate, politics, academics, military. He's done extensive research on Kautilya's Arthashastra, and he's got over 20 books. He is prolific. He's putting out new books and different ways of applying Chanakya's teachings to different contexts in the modern world. He's got over 25, I think maybe 30 years of combined working experience and business experience. And you're going to hear him today. He's a well-known speaker. He's motivational. He gets to the point, but he's also engaging. He's got over 200 articles and papers. He's invited to speak at conferences, and he's just an amazing person to have. And we are glad to have both of them, Shri Pranav Patel and Dr. Radhakrishna Pillai, as faculty at Hindu University of America. And today they are leading us on this webinar on the timeless leadership and of unlocking Chanakya's Arthashastra for modern leaders. So with that, let me hand it to, I think Pranav Bhai will get us started, and we'll take it from there. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much, Ankur Bhai. It's an honor to be here at HUA. Once again, we've been doing this webinar. I would think this is the 8th time that we are here. We've been doing this and been regularly doing this with the HUA, especially with the program where people are working on the Vedic studies program which HUA has. So thank you very much. It's a pleasure. I have with me my teacher, my guru, my mentor, Dr. Radhakrishna Pillai, along with us today. So he is also here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to share a few slides about Kautilya's Chanakya's work, which we are working on, and we've been talking about this since last more than 12, 14 years now, and it's been a wonderful journey for me personally in that sense. So that is what I would like to say. I would like Dr. Pillai to share some words, and then I would go on to the presentation. So please.
Thank you, Pranav sir. Thank you, Ankur Bhai. It's an honor to be once again here. And it's not one or two or three or four times. It's like the eighth season, as we say. So, that shows two things. Number one, the topic that Chanakya is relevant. There's a lot of interest. Second, there's a lot of interest in this academic course also. So running the eighth batch now, we already have a batch happening. So we have a class tomorrow, India time morning, 6:30. So those will be joining this eighth batch will definitely see that Chanakya's relevance is there. So I would like to say thank you to Hindu University of America for starting this experiment that they succeeded. Yeah, so we say, okay, can we go ahead? And we had a lot of brainstorming. Today, it's one of the most prominent courses whenever we have internal reviews of faculties. We see that this course definitely is one of the top courses. So it's a heartfelt thank you to the team that Ankur Bhai handles as outreach programs. Thank you so much. We also have this institute that we started in Mumbai University, where I can see a few students have shown interest in that. Okay, how different do you do that in the Hindu University of America? So why did you attend this seminar? So definitely, it's not just a talk; it's a proper, academic program that we run with a certificate on. We'll talk about that later. But today, we'll be actually having a webinar to introduce you to Chanakya's principle. So of course, if you get interested, you can enroll for the other 10 modules and all, which we'll share. So yes, Chanakya is relevant, and we have made it relevant in our own little way. Over to you, Pranav.
Thank you, sir. Yes, Chanakya, definitely we've been experiencing its relevance in the present reference, as we say. However, there are a few slides, few academic things which we would also like to share with all of you. So this is the program which we talk of, and in this webinar we've been talking of is Chanakya's leadership principle for the 21st century. That is what we've been looking into. However, a few things before we go into the program, which would be a question for a lot of people in terms of the person whom we're talking of, Chanakya. So who he was, when did he live, what did he do? Why is he such a legend that we are still talking about him, and we've been doing this program continuously for so many years, and more and more and more people getting interested, more and more and more, I would say, engagement is what we've been able to create in that sense, based on his work. So who he was in our one. But however, as we go, and I'm sure a few of you who are new to the subject would have seen that there is a person whose name I've been mentioning, and there's another person's name I've been mentioning, Kautilya and Chanakya. But however, the same person we've been talking of, I put this as a slide in most of my presentations because sometimes subconsciously we mention Kautilya, we say Chanakya, we say Vishnugupta said this. So it's the same person known by three different names. Vishnugupta is the given name. I would say the birth certificate, somewhere the passport, Aadhaar card had that name of his. So Vishnugupta is the given name in that sense. Kautilya is more of his scholarly name. Kautilya's Arthashastra, as we say, more comes in from the Gotra that he belongs to. The Kutila Gotra was his Gotra, and based on that, the name Kautilya also comes in. And then finally, the claim to fame name, which is there, is Chanakya, comes in from his father's name, Chanakaputra Chanakya, and that is where the name comes in from. So Chanakya is the name which most of us would have known. In fact, it's become a slang at times, which is Chanakya niti istemal kar raha hai, Chanakya ki tarah soch raha hai. Who's the modern day Chanakya? So we keep using that word a lot of times in that slang also. So these are the three names. Reason I put it here is please don't get confused. We might flip flop the names subconsciously and say Kautilya or Chanakya or Vishnugupta in that sense. So don't get confused for that matter. Going ahead, a little bit of what did he do and why is he legend that This is a man who vowed to pull down the Nanda dynasty. Dhananand was a king at that point of time. I would say not a righteous king, not an ethical leader from that perspective. He was not focused on his people, more focused on he himself. In modern day context, it's a more of an I, me, myself kind of a leader who was only focused on his personal gains, his own personal benefits from that matter. So Chanakya was the one who vowed to pull down Dhananand. There's a story which goes behind. In fact, Dhananand was the one who also is said to have killed Chanakya's father, Chanak, whom we speak of, who was also an acharya. When I say acharya, he was a principal of the institute there, the political science institute at that point of time in Magad. Now, there's a very famous story behind that where Chanakya had taken that vow where he said, I will bring down this leader, the king. I will bring him down from his throne. And till that time, I will not tie my shikha, the pony which Brahmins keep on their back head, which is there. And there's a lot of shastric significance to this ponytail. However, Chanakya, I would say, would have somewhere put it because he wanted to keep reminding himself of his vow every day. In Indian culture, we have this thing of tying our habits to some goal or some mission that we are on. And when that habit continuously keeps reminding us, for example, someone says, "I will not have tea till the time I don't finish my exams." Right? If something doesn't happen till the time, I would not eat sweets. If you're like to eat a lot of sweets, but it's just to remind you again and again. Every time you feel like having a chai or having sweets, the person will say, "Oh, I'm not supposed to have this because I have a goal which I need to achieve." So it continuously reminding yourself of your goals from that perspective. Second, Chandragupta Maurya's kingmaker. So he not only pulled down the Nanan, but he also installed the righteous, the ethical king from that matter, Chandragupta Maurya. Chanakya is also known as kingmaker a lot of times. Chandragupta Maurya was his student whom he trained and he presented to the world as an ideal leader who was there at that point of time. Also, one of the achievements of Chanakya, which is he's the one who was responsible for defeat of Alexander in India. So Alexander was the one who was on his spree to win the world in that sense, which was there. From Babylon, he came in today's times Greece, which is more towards Europe, and then covering the whole of Middle East, which we talk of, starting from the land of Syria to Iraq, Iran, in fact, going down to Egypt, and then coming till Afghanistan, Pakistan, today's time, is where he reached. And then he faced Chanakya for that at that point of time, who put together 16 different kingdoms and formed one united army, which was strongly standing against Alexander. In fact, the concept of the federal or union of states or union of kingdoms, people coming together, comes in from this particular example, which is there. We call it Rashtra and Rajya. Rajya as in a state, small kingdoms put together, making it into a Rashtra or a country for that matter, which we talk of. Next, Ashoka's first, who was India's first global emperor. In fact, Chanakya was responsible for training Ashoka as well. Ashoka is a grandson of Chandragupta Maurya. Chandragupta Maurya's son was Bindusara, and Bindusara's son Ashoka. And his training, Chanakya's training, made Ashoka the first global emperor whom we know of from that perspective. Global emperor, as in someone who had his kingdom all across the world? No, not actually. He was someone who had his influence all across the world. He was seen as the man to go to. He was seen as the man to go and get things resolved or go and ask for some kind of help always from everyone around the world. So that's why we call him India's first global emperor. Apart from that, he not only achieved all this in practicality, but he also documented, he wrote it down, he created his own theory for that matter, if we say, with his experience of what he has done. He was obviously a teacher, he was an acharya, so he was also a scholarly person from that perspective. So he wrote 3 treatises. We go into the details of that: Kautilya Arthashastra, Chanakya Niti, and Chanakya Sutrani or Praniti Sutras that we talk of. So these are 3 scholarly works of Chanakya, which we talk of, or which is available for us even as on date to refer to. When did this happen? We're talking of somewhere around 4th century BC. So almost say 2400 years from now is when this actually happened in practicality. So we are not talking of a fictitious character or someone who's just whom we're thinking of just from our mind. which is there, but he actually happened. There are historical epistical evidences which are available. You can actually see those, you can relate to those and find that out. So Kautilya Arthashastra, obviously, that is the book which we focus on in our trainings, because that's where the whole book was written more from the focus of Rajaniti. It is a book on Rajaniti Shastra. We'll get into details of that. 15 books in that, 150 chapters, 180 sections, and having 6,000 sutras. So the 6,000 sutras is what Kautilya Arthashastra covers as in whole, which is that's the kind of voluminous work of Kautilya. From that perspective, it is in fact seen as one of the most profound books on statecraft, on administration, or on political science, if you have to put it in that perspective. Second is Chanakya Niti, 17 chapters, 455 sutras in that. I would say this is more of a one sitting book which you can read, a very handy book available worldwide for that perspective, but written more from the perspective of Praja towards the citizen, how the Praja should be, how the people of the country should be, how people in the society should behave, how should their vyavahar be with each other in that perspective, how family relationships should be. So that is what Chanakya Niti is more focused on. And Chanakya Sutrani is more of one-liners, which are the 6 chapters, 571 sutras. Again, the one-liners where it starts with something like Sukhasya Moolam Dharma. You know, if you want to be happy, you have to follow the dharmic way, dharma, as in the dharmic righteous way of living. But and then further he says, Dharmasya Moolam Artha. You know, so to do dharmic activity also, there is artha, which is the base of it, which is there. So there are things which is covered in Chanakya Sutrani. Just covering it, putting it here to give a little background or giving an understanding of the scope or the kind of work which Kautilya Chanakya has done in his life, which is there. We'll get into more details of Kautilya Arthashastra because that's where the scholarly focus of us have been. But before that, sir, a few thoughts from you, please.
Thank you, Pranav sir. It's an honor to once again speak on Chanakya. I like to bring in a different perspective about history. If you look at the word history from Western perspective and Indian perspective, they had two different approaches. In the Western culture, it's more about documentation references. So you find, okay, where is this written? Can you show me a place where it has happened? So it's very empirical in nature, touch and feel. That's one approach. In India, it is more out of Shraddha. Shraddha means I believe what you say. So, for example, in India, if you translate history, it is itihasa. And the two prominent itihasas of our culture is Ramayana and Mahabharata. Of course, there are books on Ramayana and Mahabharata. There are many versions. And even today, modern versions are there. But the approach is okay. There was this Krishna, so we can go and find out there was a Dwarka underwater. So archaeologists, anthropologists, they would come and show me where it is. Okay, Mathura is a place, show me where it is. Kurukshetra is a place, show me where it is. So it's very much proof driven, reference driven. Yet, one important aspect of Indian history is Shabda Praman. Please remember this. Shabda Praman. What is meant by the Praman means proof. But there are many type of proofs. So if you study the philosophy of Nyaya, there are many. So one of them is Shabda. What is Shabda? Shabda, as you know, sound. It is said by somebody. So if my grandmother says there used to be a kitchen here, you can't go and ask her, where's the proof? She may prove it also. But somewhere you have faith in her. So yeah, if she says there is a kitchen over here, which her mother-in-law used to cook in, but I can't see it. Where are the utensils? Show me, bring it out from a museum. Oh, we sold everything. But you value that words given by a wise person. Now, in many times when we actually get into this kind of a research, we see a kind of a conflict also. Because everything is not kept well documented, in many countries, including India. Yet, we cannot say it never happened. So, of course, we can take the Western approach to understand Indian history. But very important point is not, as they say in Hindi, bal ki khal nikalna. You keep splitting, hair splitting, and say, okay, show me where, show me where, show me where. Therefore, one important way of understanding Indian history, apart from empirical research, is actually to understand the philosophy behind it. That's a very important point. Philosophy. Now, what do you mean by philosophy? Okay, so you take a particular aspect of Chanakya and say, does it work? Does it work? If it works, great. If it doesn't work, even if it is proven, it is not useful for anybody. So it's important to know what is called in Sanskrit as Tattva Jnana. The essence of all this research has to be convertible into some form of knowledge which can be applied even today. So we definitely have historical references that he was a teacher, he was an author. All is there. You can go to, Takshashila. It is there in the modern day Pakistan. You can find out. Yet, one good part is that we don't get stuck over there. So while teaching, this is just 2 slides to tell you that history. Okay, this is what Chanakya did. So you can go into Wikipedia and you will find the various versions of history also. So somebody quotes that, somebody quotes that. My humble suggestion is that don't get stuck with only references. Let's move on to philosophy applied. So we'll see that this is, okay, the story of Chanakya, Dhananand. There are different versions of it also. Some people say that Dhananand and Chanakya had some relation also. Chandragupta Maurya and Dhananand had some relation. Maybe they had, but what I'm saying is that can we look at other perspective? Therefore, for academicians like us and students, we say, okay, this is an academic platform. We have found out these books like Arthashastra, Chanakya Niti, Chanakya Sutra. They are there, and it's not written by us. It's written by Chanakya. And then we can take the essence of it, what is called Tattva Gyan, the knowledge out of it, and see how we can apply it. So just to summarize this, history has so many stories connected to Chanakya. We definitely will use those stories, but that is not the essence of the knowledge. The essence of the knowledge is that does the philosophy work in our generation? So these 2 slides on the past historical stories, most of them have been derived as itihasas coming from Shabda Praman. But we move ahead to the philosophical side into application. Over to you, Pranav.
Thank you very much, sir. Yes, pramana, as he said, so I was talking about in terms of proof which is there, and proof is required. So I'm going to show you a proof. There is a proof here. You can see this on your screen. This is the original Kautilya's Arthashastra, which is available as on date as well. It's in Mysore in the Oriental Library out there. It was rediscovered in 1905 by a person called Shama Shastri, R. Shama Shastri. He was a scholar. He was the librarian in the kingdom of Mysore at that point of time, and it came to him, and he I would say rediscovered Kautilya's Arthashastra at that point of time, and probably he was also one of the first ones to translate Kautilya's Arthashastra in English at that point of time. So available to see as on date. Also, you may definitely want to go and see it if you are in Mysore or visiting Mysore for that matter. Which is there, known as a book of economics, statecraft, punishment, warfare, strategy. I mean, we can just go on and on. But then, that is always, I say, there is something which is called bhashantar. Bhasha ka antar. There is a distance in languages as well, and that's where the bhashantar happens. The translation, which brings in that at times, which is say, because Arthashastra, for that matter, at times people would relate it only to something, say, economics. Obviously, Kautilya Arthashastra is a book on economics, which we talk of, but it just does not cover economics. It looks at a larger picture of how a state or a country needs to run from that perspective, and talks of multiple different sciences in that. So we call it, as I said, a book on statecraft, which is called Rajaniti Shastra, punishment as in Dandaniti Shastra, Yuddha Niti Shastra as in war, and obviously strategy, which is called Anvikshiki in Kautilya's language, or Arthashastra for that matter. If you have to go ahead, bifurcate further, we call it a book on total management, as in leadership, how a leader should look at a state, how he should look at the whole country and run the kingdom from that matter, which is there. It covers, first part, fundamentals of management. It covers economics. It covers law, foreign policy, war. We'll get into details of what these books are, the 15 books which is there. But then overall, if I have to divide the Kautilya's Arthashastra, it is basically divided into this 5 parts, where he talks of how, first of all, fundamentals of management, which we talk of in terms of how to govern a kingdom. He starts with setting up a village, and from there, how the whole kingdom should be, and in that manner, how to govern based on his economics, which is there. So how the economy should work in that particular state, how law and order should work in the state, and how he should maintain. So he covers law extensively for that matter. Going ahead, he not only looks into that, his own state, but he also looks at states outside or countries outside and interactions with them, where foreign policy comes into picture. Mandala theory, a very, very, very profound theory on international relations, which is there given by Kautilya, used a lot in practical applications even today by a lot of practitioners of foreign policy for that matter. And also, obviously, the final part of Kautilya Arthashastra covers war. Because if you are in conflict with someone, if you're in conflict with your neighbors, if you're in conflict with your enemies outside, how should you go about fighting it and getting in control of things is what he covers. Obviously, he also covers a lot many more things where we say he describes specialized science like gemology, Ayurveda, architecture. He talks of things like accounting systems. He talks of visa systems, how visas should be issued, multiple different things which go on when you look into Kautilya's Arthashastra. It's survived the test of time. We talk it's survived the test of time because, when we read Kautilya Arthashastra, we understand that he is talking about how the human nature works, how the mind of people work, or praja work in that sense, which is there. And then he works on his philosophy or the principles which he has preached in the Arthashastra, which is there. More or less, I would quickly show you the whole structure of Kautilya Arthashastra in this slide, which is there. These are the 15 books which we talk of Kautilya's Arthashastra, what he covers in this 15 books. Running through them, first book obviously covers where he actually focuses on the leader. First, he says before anything else, it is the person, the leader who's going to lead is very, very, very important. That's where the first book focuses on the development of the leader himself. So leadership development principles, everything comes in what the leader should be taught, how he should be trained, what his attitude should be, how he should behave with his people. All that is covered in the first book, which is concerning the topic of training or Vinaya Adhikarikam, which is there. Then he sets the kingdom up where he starts with, as I said, setting up a village to different parts of the village, different departments, different activities which happen in the department, the economic activities which happen. So activities of the head of the departments are covered there. When there is a state, when there is a country, it needs to have law and order, and that's where he talks of the topic of dharmasthya, how the dharmic way of living should be, and that's where the concerning judges, how the whole judicial system should be, and how justice should be done, or how the judges should act and how the decision should be taken by them is focused in this book. Further, he goes in terms of criminal, that is going to be some of the other criminal activities which is there. You need to bring them down. You need to curtail those criminal activities in the country which is there. And that's where the book on suppression of criminal comes into place. Chanakya, also known for the next book, which is on secret conduct, is all about the spying system. We refer to a lot of, I'm sure there's a lot of people here, if you are interested, would have read book on Mossad or some things like that, which is there. But then here, Kautilya has an extensive book which he focuses on secret conduct, how the whole spying system, and I would say it's not spying for that matter of just keeping an eye on someone, but it's more about how to gather information. So I just spoke about the pramanas in that sense, and Chanakya in Arthashastra talks of three ways the leader gets information. Pratyaksha, as in Sir spoke of Pratyaksha Pramana, I see there is something, right? So I see there is fire in front of me, and I'll say there is fire which is there. Then there is Paroksha, as in someone comes and tells me that, no, there is fire somewhere. So I have not directly seen fire, but Paroksha, someone has given me. So indirectly coming in that manner. And then Anumeya, I make an Anumana, in that sense. So I infer that there is, if when I see smoke and I see people running, so where there is smoke, there is fire. So there's inference which happens. So all that comes in this kind of, in this particular book, where there's how information gathering happens for a leader when he's running such a big entity, which is the state or the country in that reference. Further, he in book 6 onwards, he again starts going outwards, where this was inwards, now he goes outwards, where he deals one kingdom dealing with the other kingdom. So circle of kings, he talks of different kingdoms together, and then the foreign policy comes in. The Mandala Yoni, which we speak of, comes in book number 6. Foreign policies, how to deal with them, how to have your foreign policy, how should be the relationship be between different states, for that matter. So in book number 7, he covers foreign policies extensively in that matter. Concerning the topic of calamities is book number 8. Calamities can be of two types: man-made and human-driven, right? Man-made, man-made and the number is natural for that matter. So man-made are things where things have happened because of humans' mistakes, or probably someone who has invoked something which is there. Something like, I would say, COVID happened. It was somewhere to say that it was not natural; it was human-driven which happened. Or probably when I have to refer to which is natural in that sense is, say, for example, there's flood which happens somewhere, or tsunami happens, earthquake happens. All that is more of nature driven. So he focuses on two kinds of calamities and gives remedies to handle this in book number 8. Book number 9 more moves now into the war scenario which is there, where is the activities of a king about to march. So preparing, how do you prepare yourself when you are getting into a war zone, into a war situation? So activities of the king about to march. Before marching, how do you prepare yourself? And then obviously book number 10 is on the war strategies. A lot of business strategies, a lot of sales strategies, a lot of acquisition strategies coming from this book, which is there concerning war, where Chanakya talks of different strategies of going and fighting. The guerrilla warfare, which we refer to, also has been spoken about in this book. And at the same time, there are a lot of formations which he talks of. For example, if you've seen the movie Bahubali, they talk of a Trishula formation, right? The Katappa goes from the center and two princes goes from the side, and they form a Trishul from that matter. Chanakya talks of a lot of different ways and means of formation. There's a snake formation, there is a rectangular formation, the different formations which he talks of in this book, which is there. So concerning war, and I would say more of strategy book from that perspective. Book number 11 focuses on policy towards oligarch. Oligarch, basically small group of people having big power or having huge amount of power for that matter. Very small, tiny group of people. So, for example, in India, we say Parsis, Jains, globally we see Jews. These are small community of people, but having large power, large influence across. And that is where it's called oligarch. So policy towards them, how to deal with them, how to break them, and how to make your own. So that's all he focuses in this particular book. Book number 12, I feel this is where Chanakya actually becomes a realist. He's a very realistic person. He's not an optimist or a pessimist for that matter. He's a realist in that sense, where he is the one who says, if I am the weaker one, if my kingdom is the weaker one, if the enemy is the stronger one, someone who I'm dealing with is the stronger one, how do I behave? How do I manage in that perspective? So he focuses on concerning the weaker king at that point of time. Then further going in book number 13, how it's about means of taking a fort. We use the strategies of means of taking a fort a lot in mergers and acquisitions, M&A. When you are acquiring a company, or when two companies are merging, there is not just the names or the balance sheets which are getting merged, right? There's also a lot of processes, there's a lot of systems, there's a culture of the organization which also gets integrated in that manner. And means of taking a fort is all about that. When one particular king who has a particular way of dealing with things or has systems, and he's taking over a whole a fort which has so many people living, there's already a pre-existing system. How do you integrate this together is what book number 13 focuses on. Book number 14 again goes in secret practices, where he talks of certain things which the king, the leader, for that matter, should practice or should know or should be aware of in that sense. So that's book number 14. And book number 15 is something for people who are from a research background. We talk of research methodologies, right? Anyone who's doing PhD would know it very well. Research methodologies is what Chanakya talks of in the Method of the Science, where he talks of in that sense of how Kautilya Arthashastra was written, how he has referred to the Purvacharyas or other references, other books which he has referred to, and then how has he compiled the whole Kautilya Arthashastra. In fact, in book number 15 is where he signs off in that sense, where he says, I, Kautilya, who was responsible for defeating Alexander and bringing down Dhananand also, is the one who is writing this book in a Bhashya format. So that signature, I would say, comes in book number 15 of Kautilya as well. So this is and I would say a quick overview of the whole Kautilya's Arthashastra. 6,000 sutras in this 15 books, which is a lot many more topics to cover and discuss, which comes within them. So as Sir says, Kautilya Arthashastra is just not a book; it's a library in itself. So, more thoughts from you I would like to hear.
Thank you for the marathon. You know, we're running against time also, because the idea is to give you an overview. In fact, when we go into details, Sometimes we require 2, 3 classes only to cover up the 180 topics. Just the topics to be covered. Now you can imagine that one person and one book we are talking about. And think about, there are many books like that in Indian culture. If you go back to, let's say, Mahabharata, it's already accepted that it is the largest book ever written in the history of mankind, not only India. So the count is around 1 lakh shlokas written by the great Veda Vyasa. 1 lakh. Wait. Now that's only one of the books. The same Veda Vyasa writes the 18 Puranas, the Srimad Bhagavatam, and he goes on and on and on. Oh, how much can you write? That's what our culture is. Ours is a knowledge culture. Anyway, let's come back to Chanakya because we cannot cover anything and everything in one course. But in this, what we're going to do is that look at Chanakya and Arthashastra from the perspective of leadership. 99% of people, when they think about leadership, will think about political leadership. That's also a leadership. Yet we will not restrict there. We can even talk about, business leadership, social leadership, community leadership. So leadership cannot be restricted to one field. And the principles of leadership can be applied across at professional and personal lives. Just to summarize, I'll not go back into details which Pranav sir just now covered. There are certain aspects of leadership called as good governance. And the beautiful part is that if you are a good leader, if you have good systems, process, governance in place, then wherever you are, you are actually accepted as a leader. And as they say, every place requires great leaders. Every place. So it's a school or an education institution, a university, or if you go to society, many of us say in gated communities, or you are working in an institution or a company, or you are maybe working in an organization which is an NGO or even military. Finally, as they say, it is all connected to one person at the top. He or she definitely has to be a inspiring leader. Just yesterday in Mumbai, I was in a college, a very famous college in Mumbai called as Sydenham College. I'm sure many of you heard about that. It's in South Bombay. And they had a very interesting session and they had called me as a chief guest. The session was called as Shiva Niti. Shiva, Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj from Maharashtra. And they wanted to compare Chanakya Niti and Shiva Niti. And over there, they had displayed a lot of weapons of his generation also. So they had bought, and then how Shiva's Niti or Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj's Niti and Chanakya. That was the topic where I was called to speak. And I was telling, if you have to look at application of Chanakya, you can go back not only Chanakya's time, not only to Shivaji's time, you can even come back to modern times. So even I believe that people like Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel and many other leaders are actually Chanakya's generation. They may not be from Chanakya generation, but applying Chanakya Niti. So all these principles that we will see as we go ahead, but just to summarize it, it's a huge voluminous book, but we'll try to cover up at least the essence of all these teachings among the 6,000 sutras as we go ahead. Thank you, Pranav sir.
Thank you, sir. Yes, so let's get a little glimpse into what Chanakya actually teaches. We are just looking at the topics, we're just looking at the subject matter from that matter. I was talking to someone, and at times I responded, the amount of content the Western philosophy has, that's the size of the index which the Indian philosophy can at times generate in that sense, which is there. But then let's get into some essence of Kautilya's Arthashastra and see what Chanakya talks of. In fact, let's look at what happens when we open Kautilya's Arthashastra. When we open Kautilya's Arthashastra, the first thing that comes in front is a salutation. Right? When we started the session, we said good evening, good afternoon, good morning for anyone and everyone joining from different parts of the world. We say namaskaram and things like that. And when we write something, we at times have the thing of writing, maybe making a symbol. Someone writes Om or something in that manner, and then auspicious way of starting and giving salutations to someone in that sense, right? So when Chanakya writes Kautilya's Arthashastra, we open it, the first thing that comes in front and he writes is Om Namah Shukra Bruhaspati Bhyam. Right? This is the first thing that comes in Kautilya's Arthashastra. And when Chanakya has written something, there's definitely a lot of logic and reason behind that. Because once you read Kautilya's Arthashastra, you will realize, oh my God, this man has thought so many angles and so much. So if he has written something so profoundly, I'm sure there is a lot of meaning to it. And when we focus on it, we understand what he's trying to say. It says, Om Namah Shukra Bruhaspati Bhyam. Now we all can understand a little from that manner. Om, obviously auspicious. Nama is Namaskar. To whom? To Shukra and Bruhaspati Bhyam. Two people he talks of in that sense. Shukra is in Sukracharya, who is the guru of the Danavs or the devils whom we talk of from that matter, but not really. Shukracharya was definitely a scholar in himself, which was there. And then next we look at is Bruhaspati Bhyam, as in Bruhaspati, who's the guru of the Devatas in Indian philosophy when we look at. And when Chanakya writes this, is very important to understand that Chanakya is given this Namaskaram, and obviously he's doing Namaskaram to both, Guru of the Danavs and the Guru of the Devatas, both from that perspective. So there's a lot of thought which you go in. Why would have he done that? Yeah, we can obviously look at being good, doing good. We want to do work for the betterment of the society, for the betterment of the world. So Bruhaspati is always there, the Guru of the Devatas. The righteousness which is there is always with Bruhaspati in that sense. But why is he doing that Shukracharya? From that perspective, Shukracharya obviously does have a lot of profound philosophies and theories which he talks of. But then I would say that, Chanakya said, just don't look at one side of the coin. Look at both sides of the coin. Understand, from both ways. But then in this, he goes Shukracharya first and Bruhaspati second. First Namaskaram to, so, he says Namaskaram to the enemy first, I would say. No, not, I would say, yeah. Maybe. But then I would say Chanakya, if I have to interpret it from my own perspective, I would say Chanakya said, look at the negatives first and then obviously look at the positives. Right? Not just keeping the frame of mind where we say in present day context, just focus on your mind, just positive thoughts, positive thinking. Chanakya says that's okay, that's all right, but then also think that there is negatives which are there. You should be aware of them. So think of the negatives first and then think of the positives. Or I would say be prepared for the worst and then hope for the best to happen. The whole of the insurance industry, which we talk about, the risk management world is dependent on this. Right? If something goes wrong, then what? How do you protect yourself against that? How do you look at that from that perspective? And then obviously we hope for the best thing to happen in that manner. So there are salutations which Chanakya does. So he says, understand from everyone, learn even from a child. There's a sutra where it comes in, a smart person or an intelligent person will learn even from a profound thought given by a small child as well. So learn from all directions that you can, what to pick, what not to pick, it's what I would say Chanakya says, that's where your wisdom lies in that context which is there. Apart from that, there is one more model which we will get into. I'll quickly go on to that, sir. Chanakya talks of the Saptanga theory, and this is what we do a very extensive program on this. And this one sutra in Kautilya Arthashastra covers, I would say, an ocean of knowledge from that perspective. The sutra goes, Swami Amatya Janapada Durga Kosha Danda Mitrani Prakriteyaha. Don't get scared by that big word there on your screen, which is just written in. We can sandhi it or break it up into parts, and we have to understand what it means. It says the king, the minister, the country, the fortified city, the treasury, the army, and the ally are the constituent elements of the state. In fact, state, because obviously the book is on Rajaniti Shastra, it focuses on state. But if you look at the Sanskrit Sutra, it says Prakriteyaha, it's nature. These are the 7 elements of nature, the 7 sapta anga, as in the 7 limbs of nature. In fact, if we study Arthashastra, he talks of something like a chariot which has different things which is there. It has the wheels, it has the rider who is there. He's someone who is the king who is standing at the back, and then obviously there are horses which is leading it, and then there are those leashes which hold on and you run. So it's the understanding of the whole kingdom from that perspective. But how do we understand it in, as Sir said, in present day practical application, modern day contextual understanding, if we have to take, then we would take it from this perspective. Let's understand. First, Swami, as in the king, and I would refer to as the leader who is there. Obviously, the leader who is leading an organization, who is leading a particular group of people from that manner who is there. So the leader whom we talk of. Second is the amatya or the minister. And I would say this is the manager or the second in command, the people who actually do the execution work, who get things done from that man. The whole management theory which comes in at the Amatya level, which is the number of Amatyas which are there, or I would say ministers, which is there from that perspective, which Chanakya writes about. Then comes in Janapada, or in the country, or the people of the country which is there. And I would say from the leader's perspective, it is the people whom he is supposed to serve. And from the business perspective, if I have to put it, it is the market, the audience, the client, the target audience whom you are working on, or who your potential clients are, or the clients whom you serve, is the market which you look at. So Janapada. Then comes in Durga, as in fortified city. In those days, all the kingdoms were protected by a physical wall, a round wall, or wherever there's a wall required. And that is why we used to call it a fortified city or a fort from that perspective. So, but then that's the infrastructure, all the economic activities or all the social activities, everything used to take care within the fort inside. And I would say in modern day context, how to put it, then it's the infrastructure of a business. It can be a factory, can be an office, can be godowns, warehouses, all the places where the business activity takes place. That's the infrastructure which we look at, or Durga from that perspective. Then comes in Kosha. Oh, not need to talk much about it. The treasury, where he all talks about the moolas, the money, the accounting system, the finance, which is there behind the organization's functioning, which is there. Danda, as in the army or the team, these are the people who actually do the execution. These are the people who actually are the feet on street, as we say. These are people who do the execution work, people working on the shop floor, the admin teams, the sales teams, everything, who are people who are executing the whole, I would say, the vision given by the leader, the king who is there, managed by the managers, the amatyas, and these are the people who are executing it at the grassroots from that perspective. And finally comes in the mitra, or in the friend or the ally, who is there. These are people who are not a part of your organization, but are working with you for the betterment of your organization in a win-win situation. Right? Can be maybe your vendors who are there, maybe you'll have some distributors who are there, can be your consultants who come in, the chartered accountants at times who are outsourced, or the legal team which is outsourced from that matter. They are not a part of your organization, but they work with you in the betterment of your organization, which is there. So these are the 7 pillars which Chanakya gives in, and then we can really get into each of them. He has given sutras to understand each of them, their qualities, how they should be, what are their qualities, what principles they should function upon, and how should they be governed. So there's a whole saptanga from that perspective in modern day context, which is there. So a few thoughts from you, and then we will go into about the program to talk about that.
So, think about this as a mental model of strategy. What do you mean by mental model of strategy? In the management space, we work with a lot of models and frameworks. Companies develop this, they have an IP, intellectual property, and they run the company based on these models. Can we use a Saptanga model of organizational leadership? I'll give you 2 examples. And then you can create your own. That's the beauty of this model that Chanakya gave us. If you may remember Samadana, Bheda Danda, and many others. So there are many strategies and ideas of Chanakya. Let's look at Saptanga as of now. First leadership model, we look at, again, I just quoted Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj, the Maratha Empire leader. So can we diagnose or think of the leadership model of Chanakya in connected with Shivaji? So let's look at this. Swami. So Swami definitely is a leader. So we have Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj. Okay, but was he a one-man show? No, he had Amatyas. It is also called Ashtapradhan. 8 of them. So he had these 8 leaders. Of course, in business sense, if you are a CEO, you'll have HODs. And one of the famous one, because of the movie also, was Tanaji. So yeah, there are many others like that. So he had these pradhans and he had these amatyas. So a leader requires number 2 leaders also. Is that enough? No. Janapada. When you say country, also the praja. So his people were happy, he had policies for them, etc. Durga. Please note the expansion of the Maratha Empire was primarily because of the strategy of creating or acquiring forts. By the time Shivaji left his body at a very young age, 50, yeah, by 50 his work was done. He had more than 400 forts across India, not just Maharashtra, across India. So that was his primary strategy, to actually build on forts. And even in the Marathi language, Durga is even today used. Yeah, so fortified city Durga. So that was one of his strategies. And even in a place like Mumbai city, even today, we have forts connected to Shivaji. For example, for those who are familiar with Mumbai city, there are small forts like Bandra Fort, Worli Fort, Mahim Fort, Kalyan Fort. Now, all these were part of the Maratha Empire. So Durga was a part of his strategy. Kosha. Again, Kosha's finance, the primary cash flow or the revenue model for government according to Chanakya is twofold. One is taxes and the second is fines. So these are the income sources. Shivaji actually had created a unique taxation model. His taxation model is studied a lot even today. One of them, I'll just mention here, is called Chauthai. Chauthai means one fourth. So there were people who were charged at one fourth. So it's like 25% tax. So for zamindars or landowners, there were different taxes. For people, there were different. So taxation policy. That's kosher. So you cannot run a kingdom without treasure. Danda, the inspired Maratha force. Even today, in Indian Army, we have the Maratha regiment. We have seen this very famous movie called Lakshya. Yeah, we have Hrithik Roshan, and then of course we have Amitabh Bachchan as one of the war veteran in that movie. They all are part of the Maratha regiment. Yeah, so that's part of Shivaji. So he had a lot of strategies like guerrilla warfare, etc., etc. Then let's come to Danda and Mitra, the policies that he adapted to take over. So there were agreements, sandhis, and in fact, he expanded through the strategy of alliance. Again, this is just one example of leadership in empire that he built, Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj. We can compare that to modern day cooperation. The second example that I like to give and stop is, let's say, Tata Group of companies, one of the most biggest multinational conglomerates from India. We have a Swami there. It can be Swamini also, but right now we have a Swami, the chairman of the Tata Group of companies. But Amatyas, every company will have its own CEOs and managers. Janapada, the world is a market for them. So for a company like TCS, they'll be having clients across the world. Then Durga, infrastructure. So if you're into Tata Motors, you require a different infrastructure. If you are into software development, you require a different infrastructure. If you are into mining, let's say, or if you are into automobile industry, or if you are into, let's say, manufacturing of some other items, you require different infrastructures, but they are the strength. That becomes a Durga kosher. Of course, a business group cannot succeed without finance, capital, and profitability. Danda, the workforce. Currently, Tata Group has over 8 lakh employees and recruiting. Remember the word recruiting, 50,000 people per year. That's the additional force they require to run all these companies. Of course, some of them will retire with time, but more and more are getting added on. And then Mitra, they have their vendors, their consultants, their partners. So two different examples of Saptang and leadership. So right from a Tata Group to Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj. And here is what I would suggest, that think about this. It's a mental model. If you are a leader, a Swami or a Swamini, how would you build your small startup or a large organization that is handed over to you by your legacy? Some of us are very lucky to get this as a hereditary property, but you have to run it, right? You have to show your leadership quality. So we'll go into details in the future, but the idea is that it's a framework from which you operate your leadership style of strategic thinking. Thank you, Pranav sir. Over to you.
Thank you very much, sir. Yes, this is something which we can just go on and on, but we have limited time in the Kautilya Arthashastra. I mean, it took me 6 months to study from sir, and 6 months just not studying 1 hour a day. It was 6 months residential program to study the 6,000 sutras. I wish we someday develop again a program where we do a Kautilya Arthashastra dedicated 6 months residential program. But yeah, that's something, it's like a wish list for me as well. Going on to Ankur Bhai, if you're okay, I will talk about the program here with our audience. So I don't know if Ankur is not there. Okay, so something just about this is a program which we do with the Hindu University, and Saptanga is probably one of the base of that program. We go into each of the pillars and try and see what are the principles which Chanakya talks of, more from a modern day application perspective. So the learning objective of this course for students is to be able to understand, learn and implement leadership principles and model as taught by Chanakya and Kautilya Arthashastra. From a leadership perspective, how should a leader be, and what all are the principles which Chanakya talks of in that sense. Course content, I mean, it covers a lot of things like leadership, management, training, and many more. I'm not getting into those details at this point of time. Giving it an idea, this is a 12 weeks program. We meet once in a week for 1.5 hours. Which is there. India, Monday mornings, which is starting from 13th of April. So in India, I would say 14th morning, and for US, it is 13th evening, which we start this program for and goes on till June. So it's 1 quarter, 3 months is where the program runs in 60 minutes of lecture, 30 minutes of discussion, which goes in. And during this program, there's a lot of things which you will have to do along with this. There's a serial on Chanakya, which you're supposed to parallelly watch. There are some case studies which you're supposed to read, at least one case study a week. And apart from that, once towards the end of the program, you're supposed to write down a small essay, or I would say a small research paper kind of a thing, not a too a tedious one, but something where how you would apply, or what have you learned from the program in terms of present day application of Kautilya Arthashastra, or the principles which have been taught in that sense. Who should attend? A very important question: what is there for me, and who can I attend or not? Yes, who all should attend in this program? Senior executives and managers, people who are in managerial positions to be leaders, future leaders, or young leaders, I would say aspiring leaders, should join. Public sector leaders and policymakers, people who are working in policy making, want to really work on from an administration perspective. This is an excellent program to be a part of. Academics and scholars, people who are wanting to study Kautilya Arthashastra from an academic perspective, want to do research work, want to do their PhDs or something. This is a program you should attend. Entrepreneurs, business leaders, definitely for them. These are people who should study, I would say, Kautilya Arthashastra more in detail. I would say our program might not be that enough for people like that, because Arthashastra actually gets into that leadership, entrepreneurial skills which a person should have. So these are people whom should definitely, and obviously leadership consultants, coaches who really want to use this principle to teach or to coach their own students or coaches from that perspective. And so, as always says, when you come for these programs, come as a student, and please go out as a teacher from that perspective, because teaching is the best way of learning. And in fact, for me, the love of Arthashastra is that I want to learn it more and more and more and more. And that's where this program helps me learn more rather than teach from that perspective. And I would say that's one thing which anyone who wants to join should definitely be looking at. Something from the commercial perspective, the course fee is $300 for people who are joining in. For regular students, marking and grading policies, this is more from the perspective of people from Hindu University of America who are doing the Vedic study courses and want to take one of this program as one of the electives, which is there. It will add to 1.5 credit for all of you, which is there from that perspective. Yes, there is I think some poll which Shamprabha is throwing out. Meanwhile, some scholarships also available. So scholarships are available for students registering from Greater Bharat region, from Giri Mitra countries, and from APEC countries. So people from India, Bharat, Nepal, Sri Lanka, Myanmar, Afghanistan, Bangladesh, Pakistan, Ma Malaysia, Maldives, Indonesia. The fee is reduced to approximately $100. So there's a 67% scholarship available for that. People from Girimitra countries, which is like Mauritius, Seychelles, South Africa, Fiji, Suriname, Jamaica, Trinidad, and Tobago. Others will get around 35% scholarship. There is a process of getting. There is another student who is joining in between. Okay. So there is a process which you need to go about for the scholarship, which is there, which Ankur Bhai would brief you on in case you're looking to take an admission. Over to you, Ankur Bhai. I think that's more or less from our end.
Amazing. Always exciting. And even though I took the course every time, it's like the different questions and the different ways that it's applied. Like you're saying, it's a every time, every perspective, it's a fresh start. So I'm gonna drop the scholarship details if you're interested in that right there. I had the poll up. So lots of first timers. Thank you for joining an HUA webinar for the first time. Quite a few regulars and people who've attended before. Quite a few people who have taken a course. Many of you are considering this would be a great course to start with. I'll put details about when this course is going to launch just shortly. And then I'll launch this if you're interested in taking the course, just let us know. We have some questions, not exactly in the Q&A box, but I think a lot of people put their questions in the chat. So online, Monica G, the certificate program is $1,500. The course is $300. So those are a little bit different. And depending on which course, we have a whole series of different programs and courses. So maybe if you just re-click there. Trying to go through the chat. Priyaji, thank you for all of your comments. Glad to have you and making suggestions. If anybody like to unmute and ask a question directly, just raise your hand and I can allow you to do that as well. Not seeing any questions in the Q&A box. We prefer them in the Q&A box. It makes it easier to keep track. Bipin Agarwalji, yes, glad that you will be joining. Mineshji, great question. So what study material will be provided? So when you enroll at Hindu University of America, you get your @hua.edu email address, and you will have access to our learning management system. So week by week, all the readings, videos, links will be accessible. And there is a lot. It really is up to you how hard you try, how much you study, if you read all of the signed readings for the course. So please, if Radhakrishna ji, Dr. Pillai, Pranav Bhai, you want to elaborate on kind of the course structure, what readings there are, how you decide. It's all very accessible though. Yes.
So sure, this program is, as I said, based on the Saptanga. So we more look at from an application perspective for an organizational behavior, organizational development perspective, and leadership development. Obviously, that's the focus which is there. So that's how we have structured this particular program. Reading wise, there's a lot to read, and we can give you a lot more material to read from that perspective. But compulsory reading would be there in terms of at least one case study a week, viewing some series on Chanakya, knowing a little background from that context, and also obviously some reading material in terms of books, which is there if you want to. The optional readings, but they definitely we keep sharing about that in our program throughout. So those reading materials also there. And from I would say assessment perspective, there is, as I said, there's a small essay which you need to write, and then obviously there will be a multiple choice question answers, which will be there towards the end of the program also. So that's for people who want to gain the credit for their Hindu studies program. So yeah, the $1,500 is for the whole program of Hindu studies, which you look at from that perspective.
Great. So I dropped the details of the course in the chat. It's going to be on Sundays, starting April 13th from 9 p.m. Eastern to about 10:30 p.m. Eastern. So that's Monday morning IST, Sunday evening PST, EST. Malatiji, you're asking about accreditation. HUA is authorized as a degree granting institution in several states across the United States, and we are applying for accreditation. That is a long, arduous process, and we are definitely going to be accredited soon enough. Might be a little while, but we are working on that diligently. So it's with Hindu University of America. The India timing was at 9 p.m. Eastern time, means is that 9:30 a.m.?
6:30 a.m.
6 Pacific time, yeah. 6:30 a.m. India time. Great, great. And yeah, so if you miss a course, the recording will be made available afterwards. But of course, you want to engage in real time, even though it's on Zoom. Your questions are answered, and it's a different dynamic being live than watching a recording. So please, Chiryaji has a question. Did this work address how to handle corrupt ministers, corruption in the court? Maybe if you want to elaborate on that question that is on Shiryaji's mind.
Yes, so something you would like to share, because obviously Shastra does cover a lot on corruption, but then sir, some I would say one-liners or something in that manner.
Absolutely. Arthashastra talks about dealing with corrupt ministers, but then, do you have corrupted people in your organization? It's becoming difficult to deal with them. Then we'll give you some personal tips also. I'll give an example. We do work with the government, and we find that there are issues of corruption. But then what does Chanakya say? Okay, then we say, okay, let's look at a few ideas. Let's take a simple one for discussion. Sama Dana Bheda Danda. So all of you must have heard about it. So how do you apply that? So maybe once you find it, give a warning or try to find out whether it's just a hear and say, or is it actually something that's happening. So discuss it out, find it out. Then a lot of people actually look at strategies to eliminate corruption. For example, I'll tell you something very interesting that happened in Mumbai police. Okay, if you go to traffic police, they used to take some extra money to let people go and all those things. Okay, corruption is there. How do we look at, probably they require money, yeah, and beyond the salary. So let us incentivize them for actually catching people who have broken the law or the rules or whatever. So, and it is official by the way. So that's one way, but that doesn't solve the problem of corruption. Then you look at Bheda. Sometimes you transfer them to different places. So you split them. And Danda. Danda is a final one where you say, okay, now I like to suspend you or dismiss you. So that's purely a government example. Now it can happen in families also. Now corruption here, what we discuss is more financial corruption. Chanakya talks about different types of corruption. Financial is only one. What about moral corruption? How do we solve that? What about corruption issues that come from power gain? Yeah. So they're nice people, but more they go into hierarchy and they get themselves in leadership position, they say, okay, that's another level. So depending on case to case, Chanakya also talks about eliminating corruption different way. But of course, beginning with moral corruption and financial corruption. There are solutions, but as I suggested, it's always case to case. Thank you so much.
Thank you
We
for
have
that.
two hands up. Yeah, we have two hands up also here.
Oh, I see it. Let me. That and
Swati ji and Monica ji.
okay, let's start with Swati ji. Go ahead. You should be able to unmute Swati ji and then Monica ji. You can ask your questions by unmuting. Okay, Monica ji first. You have unmuted.
Sure. First of all, thank you for a fantastic talk. I have been looking for a course like this through this platform, and it's so exciting to see that you have the, most awaited course coming up. So thank you for covering that, and the insights and the books, the number of books that are covered, and the sort of highlight given provides a fantastic foundation for people to get interested. So thank you for covering that. Now, my questions are that people who are unable to join the April batch, are there more courses, after this that they can join?
Yeah, Pranav bhai?
Yeah, I mean, definitely we've been doing this program for a while now. This is the eighth batch, if I'm getting the count right now, because we've already lost the count in terms of how many batches we're doing. We definitely do that. But in case you just like hoping to just not attend one or two sessions, or few of them, there will be recordings which will be shared in the program as well. So that will also be there. We keep doing this program regularly. This particular course, yes, it happens every quarter. So that's definitely going to be there as an opportunity. But then, as I said, if you don't want to miss out this particular quarter, there will be recordings which will be there as well.
Great. I have actually two more questions. One is that what books out of the book list that you shared will be covered? And number two, are there other means, when people are not able to join, just to, catch up on Chanakya Niti. I know there used to be a TV show that used to come, people used to admire that. That's one way of, just informally stay in touch with this. But are there other sources that you would recommend? So, number one, what books are being covered in this course? And number two, what are the other ways to keep us in touch with Chanakya Niti?
So, Kautilya's Arthashastra is the book which will be the focus of this particular program. I would say Kautilya Arthashastra also is 6,000 sutras. We will hardly cover 100 sutras, but then there are selected sutras out of that where we focus upon the Saptanga as in the base and then get into each of the pillars and try and understand them more in detail from that perspective, which is there. And yes, Arthashastra Chanakya, just look, Google about Chanakya and Arthashastra, you'll find a lot many more help which is available in terms of books, reading materials, a lot of research papers. If you're a researcher from that perspective, go on ResearchGate, you'll find really a lot of scholars have started exploring Arthashastra in different manner. Arthashastra from an economic perspective, Arthashastra from war perspective, Arthashastra from leadership development perspective, or Arthashastra from organizational development perspective. I mean, you would just be awed by the kind ways and means in which Arthashastra's applications have been explored in today's time. So it's all available online.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you, Monica ji, for engaging and asking your questions. Now, Swati ji, go ahead.
Hello.
Yes, we can hear you.
Namaskar, Pranav ji and Radhakrishnan ji. I'm just very much excited about this course for last 1 year, and I'm just keeping following you people regarding all these things. And I also wrote to Radhakrishnan sir, and he have recommended me to enroll with the HUA. I'm not sure whether I will enroll with this batch or upcoming batch since I'm occupied with something else for now. I have few questions. It's like 4 questions, let us say. The first question is that is it recommended for the beginners? Like because I'm just starting up my career in industry, and previously I was working as an academician, and I just started up like an project planner, and I'm looking for much more things. So I'm wondering whether how much this course will be helpful for a beginner.
All right. So, yes, definitely from a beginner's, as sir said, these are mental models. And if you are a beginner, it is, in fact, you don't need to go into corrective actions. You're already starting beginning thinking in that line of thought, I would say. So you already will be progressing and developing with that perspective itself, which would be, in fact, great if you want to have something as a philosophy behind your work which you are developing or a new work which you're getting into. Having a thought process behind that always helps. And I would say whenever, even for working people or business people, when you have a philosophy which you are have prescribed to in your life and which you work with in that sense, where there's a lot of logic, reasoning involved, it helps in developing and growing faster and more effective. So if you're a beginner, I mean, I would suggest, in fact, I always tell this, Arthashastra is something which has to be taught at graduate level. People have to start thinking from that perspective. So because when they go into real life, when they hit real life, they already have a thought process and a way of thinking in place. So it would definitely help in that manner.
Okay. And my second question is that I mean, like, since we are talking about these Idikasas, everything, and it's very famous Idikasa is Mahabharata, and with Mahabharata we have Viduna Nidhi, and we have Chanakya Nidhi, and how well this Chanakya Nidhi is going to be much differentiated with Viduna Nidhi, because Viduna Nidhi is also considered as most important laws to be followed in life and many more aspects of life. So I'm just wondering, like, how this Chanakya Nidhi is going to be like much differing from Viduna Nidhi, and how it is going to be very helpful. Yeah.
You want me to take it up, Pranav sir?
Please, sir.
So thank you, Swatiji, for that lovely question. So first of all, there are many nitis in Indian literature. The Chanakya Niti is only one of them. As you pointed out, Vidura Niti is there. There is Shukra Niti. There is
Mm-hmm.
Bhishma Niti. There are many
Mm-hmm.
Nitis. So let me
Yeah.
explain the two words. One is Niti and the second is the person. Niti
Mm-hmm.
means strategy, policy,
Mm-hmm.
planning, etc. So a
Okay.
scholar or a thinker like Vidura actually
Okay.
is advising Dhritarashtra on how the kingdom should be run. So that
Okay.
becomes a very prominent part of Mahabharata called Vidur Niti. There is
Mm-hmm.
Bhishma Niti also within Mahabharata. Okay,
Yes.
Shukra Niti within Mahabharata. So Mahabharata contains everything. But what
Yes.
has happened is that today, when we look at Chanakya Niti, it
Mm-hmm.
is actually, if you look at chronologically, there's Mahabharata, there's
Mm-hmm.
Chanakya after that. So
Yes.
actually, when Chanakya builds his Nitis, they are generally like Vidur Niti and advice to the rulers.
Okay.
But we also understood that it cannot be just for the rulers, it also has to be for a common man. So what is
Okay.
the difference between Vidur Niti and Chanakya Niti? Chanakya Niti covers two aspects for the
Okay.
leaders and for the common man, which we call
Mm-hmm.
as Raja Vidya and Raja Vidya. For
Okay.
example, if you're not a leader, does Chanakya Niti apply to you? Of course it does.
Okay.
Shukra Niti is for a particular type of students.
Mm-hmm.
Krishna for Arjuna. Remember, especially the Mahabharata part of Bhagavad Gita and all that. So the
Okay.
warfare is so Chanakya is very broad. So if you
Okay.
are a leader, also you can get strategies from there, even if you're not a leader or an aspiring leader. So tomorrow you want to be leader. So
Mm-hmm.
the has got a broader base. That's the basic difference. Coming
Okay.
back, it's got smaller aspects like economy. It's got parenting. Yeah, it's got
Mm-hmm.
an aspect of parenting, which
Yes.
not necessarily has to be done only by the leadership level, but a common level. So this is some basic differences. And I would
Okay.
also suggest, if you have time to just browse through some literature available on the internet, they are all easily
Okay.
there. But my
Mm-hmm.
suggestion, Swatij, is that when you learn that with a teacher, not necessarily us,
Yeah.
what happens is that the conversation is where you actually learn. In our
Yeah.
culture, it's not just reading up.
Mm-hmm.
Reading up today, actually, we don't have to really worry because information is available on the internet. A lot of
Yeah.
ebooks are.
Yes,
Yet,
Ji.
whom do you clarify the doubts with? So, therefore, any niti that you study, if you have a teacher with you, that's why in our culture, the guru is very important. Not just an academic guru, even a spiritual guru for the world. So,
Yes. Yes.
along with the various readings, if you can add a conversation with an expert, that will
Mm-hmm.
make the subject more better for you.
Yeah. 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 Thank you. Thank you so much, Ji. And my third question is that here we are going to read the sutras or learn the sutras or nitis, everything, the strategies, everything. Is it going to be like just an is there anything which is going to be much more practical training, something like that, so that we can just apply with our works and everything?
Yeah, let me take this one. I took the course, and the
Yeah.
Saptanga is kind of the model of the course, and you
Hmm.
really can apply it to your own condition, your corporation. I did mine on HUA, right? Applying the
Okay.
Saptanga to Hindu University of America. And
Hmm.
you have to be creative, but you can apply all of those to any organization, any institution. And so much, it's timeless wisdom. It really does apply
Okay.
across the centuries, across organizations, across
Hmm.
industries. And again, there's so much in there that you can find different shlokas, different parts of it that do apply. So
Okay.
I absolutely think it is important that we take it and apply it in the modern context. And
Yeah,
Pranav
that's
Pai,
very important too.
Dr.
Hmm.
Pillai did a great job of that.
Yeah.
That's
And
a testimony from a
I have
student.
one more question actually. I I just wanted to know like the scholarships which you are telling, because it's not only me I'm looking for. I have my brother and my sister who are looking for such courses, and it will be very helpful. Like because I'm in Norway, my sister and my brother are in India, and is there is it possible to apply for the scholarships, and is there any screening criteria for the scholarship? So I'm just wondering whether, yeah.
So I dropped a link to the scholarships in the chat. You can click it and apply. That is kind of the soft screening process. And we'll take it student by student, need by need, and see what we can provide. We aren't yeah, we can look at the details offline and get into it. One of those things, though, is we like it when people have skin in the game. When we give
Okay.
full scholarships, it becomes easier for people to not take the course as seriously as they should.
Yes.
So
Yes.
that is one of those things that we do consider.
Hmm.
We've tried, and depending on the situation, maybe we can get
Yeah.
into that. So Atichi, thank you for
Yeah.
joining us
Thank you so
and
much,
being a part of this.
everybody. Yeah.
All right. Who do we have next?
And
Malatiji and then Kumugupta. Malatiji, go ahead.
Yeah, good evening. Thank you so much for this opportunity. My question is to Dr. Radhakrishnan Pillai, sir. Sir, you have so much exposure in the corporate world and in different, areas also. You are as a guide, as a corporate guru. I would like to know, after doing this course, what is the standing or weightage does this course have if I want to, get into the management with this knowledge and in the Indian industry? I would like to know that. What is the weightage?
I'll tell you an example of a person right here. His name is Pranav Patel. So after doing this particular course, what he's doing is something which actually is a example of success of Chanakya in application. Would you like to share, Pranav, sir?
sure, sir. So, with my work on the Kautilya Arthashastra and all that I've done with Dr. Pillai over the period of last 10, 12 years, I would say, starting 2013. I'm right now heading as program director for School of Ultimate Leadership, which is an institute which is coming up in Gandhinagar near Gift City. And this is a program which is a pet project, I would say, a brainchild of Prime Minister Modi for that perspective. And this is where we are looking at developing future leaders of India. This is all because I have been working on Kautilya and Chanakya, and India is somewhere we're working on that inward looking. We are looking and reflecting on our own philosophies for that perspective. So there's lot many more opportunities like what I'm doing available for people who really want to get a career into leadership or in terms of working on Indic knowledge or the Indian knowledge systems, as we say. Before this, I was heading a leadership academy at IIT Kharagpur, which is called the Partha Ghosh Academy of Leadership, and that's where we're working on leadership development. So there's a lot many more opportunities like this, which is available if you're looking at a career working on Arthashastra as well.
So just to summarize,
would we,
go ahead.
would we be given any reference materials also other than the books that you have told we should refer to Kautilya Arthashastra? Any other reference materials will be given to us, or any such things that will be shared with us?
We can give you enough and more. I mean, or you will not fall short of content or I would say reading material, reference material, research material, I would say. No, not just someone who is written in that sense. A lot of people are working on research on Arthashastra. We have a whole ecosystem around this. So there's a lot which we can and we will, in fact, as a part of the program, when we go on, will be shared in that when we do that.
How much time will we be given for the assignments to complete? Like,
I mean,
just
you will have enough and more time, as I said. The program, it's not a big challenge to work on. Don't worry, it's not a research paper which you need to write with extensive research and finding a research methodology and things like that. But it's more of an essay, because over a period of 12 weeks, you will be learning things, you'll be reflecting upon things, you'll be discussing a lot many things in the classrooms. And then how to apply this is what you have to write it down in your research paper, as in the essay which we talk of. So it's not a difficult task in that sense.
And the scholarship, like for a deserving candidate, will we get 100% scholarship? Is it possible?
It is possible, but not guaranteed. Malatiji, I dropped the scholarship application in the chat. Please do fill it out and we can follow up offline.
Could you please send it on the email also, especially for mine, because I don't know how to go about it in the chat. If you could send it to me on my email also, please.
Yeah, I'll do that.
There's
Okay.
one, Kumu Gupta has a question. We'll just answer that last one and then.
Yeah, so this is going to be the last question, Kumuji.
Yes, can you hear me? Can you hear
Yes,
me?
please.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. I joined late, I'm sorry. So my question is, and this is not a negative question, but Chanakya, from what I understand, was a very shrewd person, and his teachings, the way I attended the last class where you talked about how he helped Chandragupta Maurya to become the king and stay away from Alexander the Great and all that stuff. So my question is this, that if you apply his principles in your work setting, or if you want to use that to go up the ladder and be a good leader, is this going to create negative connotations, vibes, results, or whatever, and cause problems in America in your work setup, where you're using too much of, you're using his principles, which are kind of shrewd but political, but yet it should not be, it should not have negative consequences. You know what I mean? So there should not be a clash, and it should not land up throwing you out of the picture completely, or you losing your job, or or being demoted or something like that. So.
Yeah. So don't worry about all these things, because number one, Chanakya and his knowledge is for a matured level of audience. Because it's leadership, and leaders have to deal with a lot of negativities around them. So my suggestion here is that a lot of people, you started by the assumption that Chanakya is equal to shrewdness. It is not true. So shrewdness versus wisdom being applied with shrewd people. When you're in the power game, there are a lot of people around you. I always say it's lonely at the top. Yet if you have wisdom and you have somebody to guide you, mentor you, then you can manage the power game. So yes, unfortunately in our generation, politicians are considered as shrewd people in the power game, corrupt people. No, imagine the other way around. You have a good leader, he or she is the solution. So with Chanakya Niti, the assumption is that a lot of my students ask me this question also, saying that, okay, will Chanakya make you a crook? Crook. So why? Chanakya would make you more smart. He will make you more practical with a philosophical base. So as they say, you should know how to actually tackle an opponent. If the opponent is good, then Sama, then Sama. A discussion is enough. You don't have to use, bad methods. Yet, if somebody like a terrorist is attacking you, you should know strategically to run away or to make sure he is killed for your safety. So coming back, it's a very psychological subject also. So the fear and the assumption that you're going to become negative and you're going to lose your job, no, don't worry. In fact, in my own case, I can tell you, I got promoted many times rather than being demoted or removed. They want more people who understand Chanakya and apply it for the results that you want. So if there is an assumption, and we have worked a lot on that, saying, okay, don't worry about what is the perception that we have. Let's study it, understand it, and definitely you will become a better person. And the word that I love the most, you will actually become a philosopher studying Chanakya, and a practical one for that.
So you recommend this for corporate America?
Definitely. See, whichever corporate, finally you are dealing with human beings, right? So definitely you should.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Kumuji. Always glad to have you join us. If you haven't filled out the poll, the quiz, let us know if you're interested in taking the course. It helps us in our follow-up. It is my pleasure to host Dr. Radhakrishna Pillai and Pranav Patel ji, on today's webinar. It is what a wonderful class it is, and the application of it. I hope some of you will take it. That's it from me. Let me give it to Pranav and Radhakrishna Pillai ji for closing thoughts, and we'll see you in class.
So I have only one closing statement, which Pranav sir already mentioned. Come as a student, into the course, but go out as a teacher of the course. So welcome. That's only one part of it. And I can tell you this, believe me, what you will learn, you definitely have to teach it. That's the biggest service you can do to Chanakya. Thank you.
I mean, I'm not left with anything to share, but really a pleasure being here. And this is something for us has become a sadhana, because every Monday morning taking a class regularly, it's like starting your week with a dose of Chanakya by itself. It really kicks off the week on the right note for us in that sense. So really a pleasure doing this program again and again. So thank you very much, Hindu University and Ankur Bhai, for making this happen every time. So thank you, and really a pleasure.
Thank you. Dhanyawad.